We're having a conversation with Gordon Osing.
Osing.
A
slight Z.
A slight Z. Okay, very good, very good. He's an accomplished poet and a writer, and he prefers to be known as a writer. Explain your concept in that.
Well, Robert Frost is my mentor in this matter. It's a fair question. Somebody asked him one time what it was like to be a great poet, and he said, I don't consider myself a poet, I'm a writer. Somebody else someday may say he was a poet, and I'll say, fine. But right now, it's what I do is I sit down and I write.
What writers and poets have influenced you and shaped your work?
Well, of course, Yeats, William Butler Yeats, a great deal. Howard Nemeroff, a great deal. Miller Williams, a great deal. He was my mentor up at Fayetteville. Lots of them, I suppose. I mean, I've spent a lifetime teaching writing and literature, and I'm not sure I can get at everything or everybody.
One of your poems I was going to ask if you'd be so kind enough to read is Red-Tailed Hawk. And I was going to get you to read that because I had a hunch that it might have been perhaps influenced by this area, if not this area, an area similar to
I was walking my dog one morning, and the shadow of a hawk crossed overhead, and I saw it on the leaves as I was looking at the ground walking. I always look at the ground when I walk because of snakes. But I was walking along, I saw the shadow of this hawk, and I thought to myself, that shadow is present for so little, and yet it's interesting to me, and I want to find out why. Red-tailed hawk. Saturday morning, the Sabbath, 10 o'clock. March 6th in the 21st century. Just now, the shadow of a red-tailed flickers over 5 years of leaves soaked beneath last night's rains in delta wooded bluffs made by the river over good as eternity. How can the time of my life be one when there were so many times at once, and moments arrive outside time, pass so quickly, you only have them in the senses. Besides, words, no, letters, come from all over the body. For the least moment, he was there. The proof was his shadow on the ground. I'll see hours, days, long afterwards. Now.
How much of your poetry is shaped by the physical landscape?
Well, a lot of it, because I think we find in our when we allow ourselves to be penetrated by the visual, the sensory, the tactile, and all the other senses, the ears. When you allow yourself to be influenced by your existence in your body's existence in the physical world, you find that can be turned into language and into assertions, into sentences or narrations, which start to amount to a redefinition of yourself in the world. I mean, the writer of poems is somebody who can think physically. That's a goal. That's a goal of writing, to achieve solitude. You write, and you read and write. I do here, or up in my office every day, and then I go out to meet the world. I see if anybody wants to read any of this. If anybody wants to read it. And I don't have that many readers, I suppose. I'm 73 years old, and my career is not on the rise. But on the other hand, I have achieved satisfaction in solitude. And I'll tell you right now, it's worth a lot to me. A job at the university for a long time, where you're always trying to please somebody, and that's all disappeared now. I'm not trying to please anybody anymore. I'm trying to write that which is believable and admirable for any reason, and perhaps even memorable to somebody who says, I like that. I want to believe that. I'll take that.
Slaughtering the Buddha, a really beautiful piece called Deliberate Dreams. Would you mind reading for that for us?
I have my glasses there in that case. Love the case. To your right. To your right. I know I had glasses over here.
There we go.
Thank you. Okay. Deliberate Dreams. Deliberate and not, dreams live on, remembered or not. We live on, more in seconds than in years. Eternity is in the moment, amplified. Monet sacrificed eternity every day, standing hours before the easel, fixing light made entirely of touching, blurring surfaces, mixing pigments, making a dream of the pond of blooms, a white Japanese bridge curving over. He sees what the hand makes in distances on the canvas in front of his face. Both ways, what is to his immediate eye, and what will correspond in inner eyes thereafter. His technique is to see it twice, and then it doesn't quit happening. The moment he has made for of all four causes at once, a deliberate dream. Ourselves live in it. What happens in the woods happens not just once only. A tree exploding in hard cold goes on exploding in the mind's ear long as you live. You can't forget something old and gracious and shading in high summer exploding in the dead of winter. It sickens the heart. Only your own dying might be worse, a world dying. But who lets the exploded tree right the heart? The heart goes on. It wants going on, even broken. It once saved, it's waving in the sun. Get on with it. Fixing moments, I mean. I choose these deliberate dreams made of nothing more or less material than my own presence and love of an old art that contradicts the world as much as proves it. Ceremonies of words and sentences, giving other life to life, unfinished, unfinishable. Time at his easel, fixing time against itself, was time well spent. One moment proves the equal of all. Both faces of eternity, old sirens. Temples to Janus, honoring the ancient, both ways, where mostly luck rules. The garden, the bridge, the pond, live, and time has proved a fiction of desire.
Poetry, writing in general, in America, is a hard road to hoe, as many artists and writers will testify to, whereas in France and other countries they elevate the position of the poet, the writer. In America, some individuals have to delay for years writing. Is the struggle part of the process, the dues that one has to pay being an American writer today?
Yes. Oh yes. It's and by the way, having traveled in those places you just named overseas, it's I can say their writers are not quite as precious to them as we imagine. On the other hand, it is true that in some places you're astounded at how well known writers are. I visited Oscar Wilde's grave not long ago in Père Lachaise Cemetery in Paris, and there are lipstick kisses all over it. It's a huge gravestone covered with kisses. It's big, almost as big as this room. And it's just covered with kisses. And I'm thinking, wow, I also Oscar Wilde he was the English Mark Twain, I mean the Irish Mark Twain. He was full of wisdom and wit and disbelief and whatever everybody else gave their lives for. He didn't believe in any of that stuff. He saw human society as a great comedy of sorts, which it is.
Were the fugitive poets, in your estimation, correct in that the more we become abstract from the land, the more we delve into this urban pornography that you're talking about?
Well, yes. I mean, if I understood what you said, yes. In general, yes. They were fugitives from the spirit, the blind, optimistic spirit of modernity. Fugitives from that optimism, which they considered to be decadent at the very least, and perhaps also destructive of ordinary living. They valued ordinary living. Intimacy with your own life is where it has to begin for a writer.
What can we expect from Gordon Osing? Any new volumes that you have coming out?
2. I'm working on 2. And one is a book that's going to be called Masks, which is a book in which I wanted to finish self-analysis, how and why I began to write and what it came to be for me. And it contains voices of famous persons. One of them is Didymus in the New Testament, St. Thomas. And there are 3 or 4 others, and then other masks throughout the book. One of them is the wife of Lot in the Old Testament, which is called Lot's wife. Henry Kissinger said the reason why academics are such badasses is because they're fighting over so little. Mercy is accuracy, honesty. I achieved satisfaction in solitude. I'll tell you right now, it's worth a lot to me. Sometimes I can't see clear. Oh dear, oh dear.